Come on. Where's Tiny? Tiny! Hey, Nigel. Hey, Tiny.
As usual, I've been pretty busy this last week.
Come on, Tiny.
I really haven't seen too much of Tiny during the day, and I think I might try and figure out where she's been sneaking off to. I've got a few other odds and ends planned for the day, but before I do any of that, I've got to feed all of these animals.
Good morning, Brucey. Come on. What are you looking at? Let me give you a scratch. You are ridiculous. All right, Tiny, come on. Time for breakfast. I gotta get rid of these weeds. Zig!
We had some crazy wind gusts last night, and it looks like a lot of Prim and Bruce's bedding ended up outside of their stall. It's a little before 7, and I've been trying every day to get these two out as soon as possible. After watching this guy for the last 3 weeks, Scarlett and Ziggy are now not super excited about seeing him every morning.
No kicking.
I used to have to wait until everybody had hay as a form of distraction. But here recently, Ziggy and Scarlett have stopped pressing on the fence in order to see this guy.
Yeah. Let me see your hair, girl. What happened? Oh, you're getting gray hair, girl. How did you even rub this out? It's getting chilly.
I'm a little bit surprised that Prim isn't getting more anxious to get out and run around. I think taking care of Bruce has really gotten her to be a little bit exhausted most of the time. She's got a weird patch of mane that is starting to rub out, and I have a sneaky suspicion that it's from Bruce trying to climb on her like a jungle gym. He still gets pretty rambunctious, and he continues to grow every single day.
Oh, you got a little snotty nose. You okay? Ooh, that's not good, buddy.
This morning, Bruce did have some discharge coming out of his nose.
Goosey!
Between that and finding Goose out of his pen this morning, my chores are going to be extended a bit longer than I had anticipated.
Sparkler girl. Goosey?
Goose has been in a separate dry lot with Whiplash. Both of the fences have 2 chargers on them to hopefully deter them a little bit more. The grass, however, around the old homestead building does appear to be very enticing. We have also had the bear return, so it could be that this guy accidentally got out of his pen last night. Either way, I gotta catch him up pretty quickly because I don't want him interacting with the neighbor's horses through the barbed wire fence.
Come on. Come on. I'm gonna hit you. Hello? Scoot. Scoot. Come on. You're a menace. Come on. Killing me, Goosey.
I will say that all of his shenanigans seems to be making him a bit less reactive. He is much more inclined to stick around and get scratches from me these days. Poor Whiplash seemed to really be missing his buddy this morning.
It's all right.
Whiplash was a stallion for 17 years and didn't get to spend hardly any time with other horses. He kind of treats Goose like a little mayor of his, so when these two are separated, it can cause a lot of problems. I'm a little bit worried about Bruce because a runny nose in a very young horse is actually a pretty big emergency. Any type of illness in a very young horse can cause them to deteriorate rather quickly. Most of the chores that I have planned for today I can do pretty close to the house. It's pretty easy for me to just pop over and check on this guy. After I get done with the rest of the morning chores, I'll probably take his temperature, listen to his heart, see his respirations. Right now, he seems to be acting relatively normal. There's a whole host of things that can go wrong with a horse of Bruce's age. I've been a little bit worried about his lungs because he did have some gurgling when he was born. I really haven't noticed him having trouble breathing, but it's certainly something that could show up a bit later. Pneumonia in a foal is pretty darn serious. I'm going to give Bruce and Prim a little bit of time to eat some breakfast. It seems like Ivar and Huckleberry are going to keep a very close eye on him this morning. Huckleberry is still a little bit afraid to interact with him because Prim does not like him too close. Ivar, on the other hand, is pretty brave and he'll go right in the pen. Prim doesn't seem to mind him and Bruce seems to really enjoy his company. I did recently switch out the majority of their bedding to shavings instead of straw.
Goose.
With the really intense windstorm we had last night, it could just be that he has a little bit of dust.
Goosey.
The windstorm also could have caused Goose to get scared and run through the fence. He does act pretty calm when he's out and about roaming around and checking on everybody. He does have a tendency to want to go over to
Goosey,
Sparkler
come
and
on.
nibble on her. It's kind of a bummer that these two didn't get along when I put them in together. Sometimes I wonder what Goose would be like if he didn't have Whiplash around. I have thought pretty hard about putting Whiplash and Nigel in together. I think they would either be best buds or complete enemies. They both are senior horses, but at 22 years old, Whiplash is still in a little bit better shape than Nigel. After getting Goose situated in a pen, I could see the area where he escaped. I'm honestly surprised he hasn't gotten out before this. The fence is only made up of temporary step-in posts and 3 strands of electric. It does look like he was running around, slid to a stop, and knocked down a part of the fence. I've been a lot better about making sure all of the fence is electrified to prevent any escapees. With the neighbors' horses out along the fence line, I really don't want anybody escaping. I don't think they would get hurt interacting with the horses, but the fact that they would do it over a barbed wire fence is a really dangerous thing. All of the neighbors' horses are mares, so it would not be surprising to see Goose wander over there if he was out long enough. Thankfully, he prefers the company of Sparkler and Scarlet, but if he continues to escape, it's only a matter of time before he goes to meet the new horses.
Boy, Ziggo.
With all of the horses enjoying their breakfast, I can take stock of what is going on outside of the fence. This week, I have been trying to hammer out some of the details with our irrigation. We've got a little drizzle coming through right now, and it's been really helpful for me to see what needs maintenance and where we're going to have to make some changes. I've been pretty busy this week, and I wanted to show you guys a few more things that I've been up to. With a better understanding of the irrigation, I've been thinking more about the permanent dry lots and some pasture fencing. But before that, I want to get Bruce cleaned up a little bit.
Let's see that nose. Shall right, Prim? That is the snotty nose.
He definitely
Not
has
good.
some snot on both nostrils, but it is pretty clear and he seems to be doing all right otherwise. I wanted to give him enough time to run around and get all of his extra energy out before I started handling him. I've been doing tiny little sessions with him every day. He honestly does not have a lot of patience for learning right now. Most of the time he just wants to play. Ivar found a piece of dried up catnip that fell out of my pocket. I like to harvest little sprigs for Pumpkin and Charlotte because they don't seem to want to go outside very much these days. I'm feeling a bit more confident after watching Bruce this morning that he is not actually sick and he just has a little bit of snot accumulation from the wind and the shavings and dust blowing around. It is a lot easier for a tiny young foal like this to get a respiratory infection than a large horse. I'm going to do my best to clean him up and hopefully this won't become a problem.
Gotta give you a little wash. Yeah, you want to put me in here.
I'm going to clean up his nostrils, get a heart rate, respiration rate, and take his temperature. I typically do not handle him very much in the beginning of the day because he does get pretty fresh. So far, I've been relatively hands-off with his training. He is naturally a very curious horse, so he does have a lot of natural draw, which has been helping me introduce him to new things. Since he's so young, if he feels he needs to go over and get a drink from Prim and get a little bit of comfort, I take a break and let him do that. Usually it gives him a little boost of confidence to come over and investigate me. He was not super into me wiping the inside of his nostrils, so I decided to let him give the wipes a little taste and sneakily try and get the boogers out. This seemed to work pretty good, but he does have some really hard chunks up in his nostril that I'm going to have to address. I'm going to have to get my hands on him to take his vitals, so I might clean him up the rest of the way after I've got a better handle on him. This part he has gotten really good at. I'll hold him for a minute, do a few things, and then let him go. Allowing him to wiggle away sometimes has had a positive effect. Today I'm doing a lot more with him than I usually do, and it did make him a bit more wiggly. I did have to really hold him to get all of the big chunks out of his nose. Prim was a little bit worried at first, but after a while she seemed to understand I was trying to help him. I want to get all of the boogers out of here so I can monitor him throughout the day.
Whoa! Let's see your little nose.
All of his vital signs were good, so now I'm just going to monitor him throughout the day and see if there's any more discharge coming out of his nose. But it looks like for the most part this was a temporary ailment from a very windy day and some dusty shavings.
Let's see that nose. Nice and clean. Good boy. Good boy.
It's been really fun to see this guy develop over just the last week. He has gotten a lot more muscle mass to him and he seems to have a better handle on those long legs of his. Our schedule is still pretty minimal with the handling. I'll let them out first thing in the morning, feed them breakfast, do a little check. I like to watch him run around in the morning and stretch his legs. He is a very inquisitive guy, so he'll come over and expect to get a few scratches. I had thought about starting halter training with him, but I want him to be a little bit better with me touching his face. At this point, there's really no rush.
Whoa! What are you doing, Ivar?
Bruce has had enough handling and is pretty understanding about being poked and prodded. So even if he needed to go and see the vet for his snotty nose, he would be perfectly capable of doing so. It is pretty common just to slap a halter on a foal like this and scooch them around until they figure it out. At this point in time, it is really easy to harm a horse's head and neck if they accidentally pull on the halter. I'm planning on pretty much having Bruce halter broke before the halter even touches his face. He has a pretty good understanding of pressure and release already, so we're just going to keep building on that. With Bruce seemingly normal, I can go on to my next task for the morning. Yesterday, I went through all of my jugs and got rid of the ones that I accidentally killed, which was a considerable amount. I've been doing some work in the garden. I changed my plans a little bit. I was going to put a bunch of raised beds, and then I thought that would be silly. I don't have time to build a bunch of boxes. I was planning on putting wood and different organic material in them, and I figured I would just do it without having to build anything to contain them. The apple trees are looking really good, so I decided to lay out 4 different beds and was rototilling almost all day yesterday. Like most of the property, I did find quite a bit of metal when I was working in the ground. I'm a little bit hesitant to eat anything that are grown in these beds. On top of all the organic material, I am going to be placing some regular garden soil. So the roots are never going to get into the actual ground. As I watched Bruce hop and jump around this morning, my worries were melting away. As long as we don't have another windy day, I think he's going to be completely fine.
What are you doing? Prim, it's not time for second breakfast yet, girl.
Prim has been getting a significant amount of hard feed. Right now she's getting about 10 pounds of the growth feed from Buckeye Nutrition.
Zig!
Over the next month or so, I'm going to switch her back to a ration balancer. I have a feeling that Bruce is going to self-wean as soon as he can eat enough to sustain himself. I am running low on hay again, so it's got me thinking more and more about the pasture situation.
Hi, Bar, I see you. I can see you.
I'm glad I have a better idea of where the irrigation water goes, but the forage that's out and about is pretty dismal. This week I went around the entire property and tried to mow all of the cheatgrass that was standing. I'm pretty bummed that this hidden pasture was basically all cheatgrass. The area where I took out all of the cottonwood saplings does look pretty green. My plan was to turn the boys out here because there did seem to be a bit of forage, but since I mowed it all down, I am less enthusiastic about that prospect. This area could be one that is slated for some pretty intense restoration. I noticed while I was mowing yesterday that there was an old irrigation ditch. I am not sure where the water comes for this. It may just be like an overflow for the stream. It's pretty obvious that it hasn't been used in a number of years. It's filled up with leaves. There are a lot of down branches over it. It's always exciting to see grass that the horses can eat, like this orchard grass. I also saw a bit of what I think is Kentucky bluegrass. I do know a lot about pasture grass, but I want to make sure anything that I plant out here is going to survive. This grass is doing really well in the shade of the trees, but out in the open, it looks like it has a little bit of trouble. I also noticed some more smooth brome grass. None of this grass is native to the area, so at one point, this must have been a pretty nice pasture. Here is a close-up look at some of the cheatgrass. Some of this was still green when I mowed it, and a lot of it had already started to change purple. After it turns purple, it dries out a little bit more, and that is when the seeds are extremely dangerous. The horses get them stuck in between their teeth and their gums. They're pretty dangerous for hunting dogs. At the emergency clinic, we used to pull a ton of grass-ons out between dogs' toes. They can actually inhale them and they cause a ton of damage. The best course of action to restore this as quickly as possible back to pasture might be to let the horses out here and trample all the cheatgrass. I can basically just move their dry lots over here and allow them to kill the grass naturally. They'll break up the soil, lay down some organic fertilizer, and then I can move them and go back and reseed the whole area. With the existing T-posts still in place, I could easily put something up for them in a day or two. The farther I travel down this pasture, however, the more the edges of the woods have encroached. I don't have a big mower for the tractor. I'm just using my little zero turn to get around everywhere. I stopped mowing when it started getting pretty congested back here, but I'm gonna have to do something about this area eventually. This is just one small portion of the property, but with all of the trees around, I think it could be a really nice pasture for the horses in the summer. Unfortunately, it is an area where there is a lot of wildlife traffic. The stream and shade make it the perfect place to hang out for the deer, and the bear does move through here in the fall. Some of the trees are scrub oak, so they're a little bit dangerous for the horses to be around if they can eat the leaves or the acorns. I noticed that the ditch continued down the edge of this pasture. Once upon a time, it may have been used to irrigate back here, and I'm going to have to figure out if there's a way that I can get some more water out here to revitalize this pasture. Something that I've been seeing quite a bit of around the property are big clumps of alfalfa. I've been doing a lot of research on things that might be beneficial to grow around here, and I spied a clump of wheatgrass. Upon closer inspection, I think this might be quack grass. There are a lot of types of grass that are beneficial for horse pasture that also have a counterpart that is an invasive type weed grass. With a little bit more moisture getting to the property, I am always finding new things springing up. One thing that I've had on my radar is lupine. This is native to Colorado, but it is extremely toxic to livestock. This is one of the reasons that I do not sprinkle native wildflower seeds around the property. This is typically in a lot of those mixes, and I don't want to bring more onto the property. I don't think I'm going to graze the horses back here ever, but I do think that it is worth considering pulling out. With it being so close to the water, it wouldn't be difficult for the seeds to fall in and go downstream to the neighbor's house. Pretty much all of our neighbors have some type of livestock, whether it's cows or sheep or goats. I'm going to file this away for later because I have to come back and remove a bunch of tamarisk trees from here. But I already have a pretty long list, and I'm trying to focus on the pasture that I can rejuvenate for the horses. I had someone ask about spraying for weeds earlier, and I'm trying really hard not to. All of the products that kill broadleaf leaves are going to kill all of the alfalfa that I'm finding as well. It is going to be a pain to either mow or hand pull all the weeds, but once it's done, it'll be easier every year. I'll show you guys what I've been doing in the big pasture. Today, I'm going to sprinkle a mix of some pretty interesting things to try and reclaim some of the space that's being irrigated. I've been able to run a few different ditches and see how they interact with each other. As the water runs and floods out some of the holes, the prairie dogs are moving to higher ground. There are a few areas that have really sprung back to life. It's nice to see a few bunches of really well-established grass. This area is probably the worst. Although it looks green, this is all weeds. It is a combination of mostly field bindweed and some hound's tongue sprinkled in between. The soil is pretty dead, so I'm going to try my hardest to get something other than weeds to grow here. While I do think the prairie dogs are pretty darn cute, I'll be happy to see less holes around here. There is a really high spot on the property that is filled with rocks that I won't be turning horses out on. And it does look like most of the prairie dog population is moving that way.
Hi, Var.
The seed that I'm sprinkling today does have a very fast germination rate. I've got some annual ryegrass and some radish to lay down. It should only take 3 to 4 days for these to germinate. We have a little bit of moisture in the forecast, but I should be able to keep them hydrated with the irrigation going. After I sprinkle the seeds, I am dragging with the harrow to hopefully make sure that these little seeds don't wash away.
What are you doing, Mama? You okay? How's Brucey? You okay, Brucey?
After working for a little
Are you
while, it
still
was time
hungry?
for second breakfast.
Come on.
Ivar is a bottomless pit, and Prim is always wanting extra snacks now.
Good boy, Brucey. There you go.
It does look like it might rain a little bit today, so I put some hay in Prim's stall and outside. I got up pretty early this morning, so by 10 o'clock I needed a second breakfast as well.
You got dirt in your mouth?
Bruce's nose has been staying relatively clean. He's got a little bit of liquid coming out of it, but it's nothing crazy. I think all of his running around this morning maybe cleared it out.
Want a piece of my sandwich? I don't think so. It says not for dogs.
While I am having my second breakfast, I'm going to go on a little side quest. I pretty much have eyeballs on Huckleberry and Ivar all day long, but Tiny has been up to something recently and I've been having trouble figuring out where exactly she goes during the day.
That where you've been hiding?
I'm pretty confident that she has taken up residence in this big old tree again.
Ivar steal your bed? Let's see. You just sleep in that hole all day?
Compared to Ivar, Tiny is a
Back to
very
work.
sneaky cat.
Bet she's been in that hole.
Tiny is also very serious about her chores, and I think she's taken it upon herself to make sure no little mice get into the blueberry and strawberry patch that I planted. Ivar, on the other hand, seems to really enjoy the life of leisure that he fell into. He supervises Huckleberry most of the morning, and then he'll lounge on the porch and sleep pretty much all of the day.
Back to work.
With Huckleberry getting older, I have to make sure he takes breaks. While Tiny enjoys her duties, she is very secretive about her hiding places. Before lunch, I want to sprinkle down a bunch more seeds, in addition to the radish and the ryegrass, which should sprout in about 3 to 4 days. The mixture also contains orchard grass and a tall fescue. Both of those will take about a week or two to germinate. Fescue is supposed to grow really well out here and establish strong, deep roots. I ordered the Reclamation mix from a seed company in Utah, and then I've been adding some extra fescue in because it's readily available in this area. A lot of the established grass does not have seed heads on it yet, so I can't really tell what it is. I'm testing out another one of the ditches today, but before that, I do have to rearrange a few things. Because I don't like spending money unnecessarily, I have constructed an irrigation dam from pieces of the shelters that I'm not using. It's going to save me some money, and I can reuse some things that would probably just end up in the trash anyway. Like a lot of the other ditches around here, it doesn't look like this one has been utilized in quite some time. A few of the irrigation tarps that I have been using do need some serious repair, but I think I can get through today's task with the help of a little mud and some cleverly placed rocks. After clearing away some of the overgrown grass, it's now time to see if we can get some water running. This is one of the highest points on the property, so getting this going should irrigate a good portion of a field that looks like it has been thirsty for a very long time. Along this ditch there are lots of other small areas that could be utilized more efficiently. I cleaned a few of them up with the tractor, but I have a feeling the irrigation that is running right now is not going to be powerful enough to get them going.
What are you looking for? Just keeping watch? Girl. It's hanging out in your tree? Little weirdo.
With all of my irrigation projects done for the morning, I can now move on to the next task. I would really love it if I got some of my garden beds done today so I can plant later on this evening. So for the next couple of hours, I am going to be monitoring Bruce and working on those.
He went in at me. Oh my gosh. Let me see you. You want to get a scratch? Oh, Primmy. Well, you want second breakfast?
I was a little bit worried about feeding these two all of their second breakfast at once. Most of my horses get no more than a pound of hard feed at a time. With Prim needing to consume so many calories to keep this little guy energized, it's hard to break it up into enough meals. I've inadvertently caused some problems with this because now every time Prim sees me, she thinks she's going to get a little snack. And of course, Bruce has caught on now too, so he has taken to whinnying to me when he feels like he needs an extra snack.
Hey.
Bruce loves to watch and interact with Ziggy, and I noticed that he has already learned his signature head flip.
Oh, you being a stallion today?
It's really cool to see how these little horses learn relatively quickly from each other. I've had a lot of questions about a buddy for this little dude. He is definitely at the age where it would be beneficial if he had other young horses to play with. I would love to play with him all day, but I have lots of other things to do. I also want to make sure he understands that when I'm around, he does not get to play with me like he would another horse. I checked in on Tiny a few times throughout the day.
Just curled up in the grass.
And I'm pretty sure this whole time she's just been sleeping in her new garden bed. Tiny has always been a little bit less impressed by humans. I still love hanging out with her, but Ivar just sticks to me like glue, so that is probably why you've been seeing a lot more of him than Tiny lately. It would be really nice if I could turn Bruce out with Ziggy, because it definitely looks like he could use a friend, but he is still too small to go out with big horses.
Goosey. Very smart. You want me to come pet you?
Another thing he has learned recently is that if he sees me and whinnies, I'll come over and scratch him.
Let me give you some scratches.
It has made it a little bit tricky to get all of my work done during the day. I've been spending a lot more time over here in the new garden area, so he insists on getting scratches a few times a day. It looks like his baby coat is maybe starting to shed out, so I think he's probably extra itchy as well. I've noticed that there are areas on his coat that are getting a much darker color. He also is starting to lose a little bit of hair around his muzzle and around his butt.
Boy. Very cute, Percy.
He really does enjoy the scratches, and he's been getting a little bit more nippy with his teeth lately. I have seen him and Prim groom each other, so I think that's what he's trying to do with me. But other times he is definitely trying to get me to play with him. I've been trying to keep a jolly ball in their turnout, but if Huckleberry's outside, he just goes in and steals it before they can play with it. This is going to be about the best toy I could put in here for these two. He hasn't quite figured it out yet, but I'm thinking once he realizes he can grab on with his little teeth, he is going to be slinging this thing around.
Whoa! Sweet moves, dude.
For now, he still thinks that I'm way more interesting than any toy I could toss in with him. Prim, on the other hand, is really enjoying getting to learn about a few new things. I'm pretty sure she's seen a jolly ball, but it's been really sweet to see her introducing Brucey to it. He still has a few spots on his body that he doesn't really enjoy getting scratches, but in an effort to get him ready to have a halter on, I think it's important to at least get my hands on them. All of these areas are going to need to be touched when he is wearing a halter, so I just think it might be a little bit better if he's used to it before I go ahead and put one on.
You're a monster. Ah!
Every once in a while, if he gets a bit too nippy, I will have to reprimand him. I'm still just pushing him away, but usually it's enough for him to understand that that is not an acceptable behavior. Whacking a baby horse like Bruce on the face is going to have a really negative impact on his future training. He still is doing basically all normal baby horse stuff, so there's no reason to get overly aggressive with him yet. You've got to be pretty understanding with these young horses, even if they do get a little bit too nippy at times.
Looks good to me, little turd.
I can always tell when this guy's getting frustrated because he'll whip out his best moves to impress me.
Ooh, you're a turd. You're gonna hurt yourself kicking at the fence.
I feel like I say this all the time, but I cannot believe how much muscle this little dude has gained this week. I'll be really interested to see if he continues these impressive gains once he is off of Prim's milk.
Very bouncy today.
I'll have to investigate possible other toys for this guy. I do have a feeling though, once he gets a little bit more comfortable with this jolly ball, it is going to be a lot of fun for him. Prim was really trying to show him how to pick it up by the handle, but he just was not figuring it out. I can see him starting to get a little bit frustrated, but this is all part of him growing a big giant brain so he learns how to do new things.
Let's see the nose.
Even though it did distract me from the task at hand, it was nice to see this guy bouncing around like normal when this morning I thought he may be a little bit sick. After seeing his signature backwards hops, I knew that we were probably in the clear. After all that playing, it's probably time to give Prim another breakfast snack.
You want a snack, Zig?
Pretty much all of the horses within earshot of Prim require snacks throughout the day now. Sparkler and the others mostly get forage pellets so they don't gain too much extra weight. Before I go in for lunch, I'm going to check all of the different irrigation ditches. The areas where I sprinkled seeds this morning are starting to dry up. There's still a little bit of flow coming through, but most of it is being diverted into the new ditch that I just dug out. All the way down at the end of the property, it looks like we are dried up. Over the next couple of days, I'm going to make sure that all of the areas I sprinkled seeds stay nice and moist. I want that ryegrass and the radish to get established as quickly as possible. Hopefully the birds and the prairie dogs won't eat too much of the seed. I went in for lunch at around 2 p.m. and took a little bit of a nap. I worked pretty hard this morning, and some days I just cannot keep my eyeballs open. After doing a few chores around the house at 6 p.m., I popped out to check on how the new ditch was flowing. This little auxiliary branch should bring new life to this dusty old pasture. There is one more ditch that I can use, but it looks like it needs a lot of water flowing through it to actually do anything at all to the pasture. I'm really interested to see what kind of grass this brings back to life. I'm also hoping it will aid me in my quest to move the prairie dogs to a more beneficial location for both of us. It looks like there is some spillover from the ditch I was testing into this other ditch that is pretty deep. It has a lot of little offshoots, and I could imagine when this ditch is running full blast that it does a really good job to irrigate this entire pasture. I'm really hoping I can get a handle on how much water we need to irrigate the pasture properly and a rotation schedule for the horses. To manage a property like this, it does take a lot of planning to do it correctly. I absolutely could turn the horses out to just eat the little sprigs of grass that are coming up, but the pasture would never recover if I did it that way. The soil is lacking a lot of nutrients, and the best way to help it recover is to get the horses out here and get some kind of forage growing to break up the dirt. It is pretty lifeless now, and everything that's growing is a weed. I really thought hard about spraying this area because I'm not seeing any alfalfa, no clover, and it's basically covered in weeds. If I do spray it, however, it's probably going to run off into the grass that is thriving, so I don't want to damage anything unnecessarily.
Hungry Ziggy!
For now, I'm just going to try and get some grasses established and see how far our irrigation goes this summer. I've been trying to feed everyone between 6 and 7 p.m.
Ready for your dinner?
That way they get their main meals exactly 12 hours apart.
Rosie, let me see your nose. Still a clean nose. Good boy. Very smart boy.
I did quite a bit of worrying about Bruce this morning, but it looks like his nose is still completely clean with no snot coming out. I'm pretty sure it was from all the dust blowing around yesterday, but I still might switch him back to a straw bedding. When I'm planning out my day, I like to do a big chore at the beginning of the day when I have a lot of energy. I'll take a break in the middle of the day to edit or do some chores around the house. And in the evening, I usually try and do a task that is a little bit more fun.
It's not for peeing on.
This afternoon, I was able to get 2 of the big beds ready. I probably should have waited, but I went ahead and planted out some of the vegetables that I had.
Hey, Huckleberry.
Huckleberry loves vegetables, and I have had trouble keeping him out of my little gardens in the past. I got too excited to plant out some vegetables that I haven't put up my fence yet. These are in our yard, so there is a fence to hopefully keep a lot of the animals out. I've got plans to fence everything in with a permanent fence, but for now I may put up a few strands of electric just to keep the deer from eating all the babies. After lounging around all day, it looks like Tiny finally showed up to do some more supervising. It has been super handy to have the little tractor around to help me with all of my chores. I almost put the fence up before I started building these beds, and I'm so glad I didn't. I dug down 4 to 6 inches into the ground, removed the dirt, put down a layer of cardboard to prevent hopefully any weeds from springing up. I then collected a bunch of the really dried out willow branches and put them down. For these, I didn't have a whole lot of other organic material. I scooped about 4 bucket loads of mostly done compost on top. I luckily was able to use some of our irrigation water to water down the beds and help them settle a little bit. After a few cycles of watering them down and stomping the earth down, I added some organic gardening soil. I mixed that with some mushroom compost, and I think it should be a pretty good mixture for things to grow. After a lot of my jugs failed, I don't have a lot of hope for the fruitfulness of the actual garden. In the past, my gardening endeavors have been lackluster at best. I had a pretty extensive straw bale garden that grew a bunch of weeds. My last little garden in Montana produced a few tomatoes, but I'm hoping since down here in Colorado the growing season is much longer, I might be able to get at least a few little things to snack on throughout the day. I got really excited at the beginning of the year to start planting all kinds of things. So far, I've planted out a lot of the flowers that I grew up in the jugs. They are in the front of our house, and I'm not 100% sure that the deer aren't going to come along and snack on those. The 2 Hugelkulture style beds that I put in the backyard do have a lot of vegetables in them. One I reserved for plants that I got on super sale at the Tractor Supply. They were $2 a plant and much bigger than the ones I grew in the jugs. That bed has squash, tomatoes, some watermelon, and peppers. In the other bed, I planted out pretty much all of the leftover things I had in the jugs. There were a few random flowers and herbs that I put in, some Brussels sprouts, some tomatoes, a few more squash, a bunch of watermelon and cantaloupe. I didn't plan too much for this spacing. I'm just kind of winging it. If nothing grows, I can always start over and try again. I'm getting a better idea of where I'm going to put some fence line and permanent dry lots with the irrigation running. This next week, I'm probably going to hustle pretty hard to get all of the random projects around the house wrapped up. I know that'll make my husband happy because I have little piles of things here and there. I would like to get in a better routine for the irrigation and rotating, but in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking about possibilities for friends for little Brucey. I did find a little yearling that I thought pretty hard about purchasing this week. I'm very hesitant to bring new horses on the property right now. Bruce is still pretty young, and with today's little scare with his snotty nose, I think I'm going to hold off a little bit longer. Since he doesn't have another baby horse to play with, I'm probably going to have to start spending more time with him. Otherwise, I think he might get out of control in another couple of weeks.
You being crazy?
With all of my actual chores done for the day, the last thing I have to do is put away the tractor. I'm feeling pretty accomplished because I've been working on this little garden area for quite a long time.
Girl Pram.
I still try to spend a big chunk of time with Brucey at the end of the day. It is the perfect way to wind down from doing chores all day long.
Good boy.
This little dude can be fairly rambunctious, but I feel like over the last week he has really started to get with the program. Although I do think his little nips are part of his need to mutually groom another little horse, he has figured out that he is pretty much not allowed to use his teeth on a human. We're still working on picking up his little feet, and depending on the day, he can get pretty frustrated very quickly. Lucky for me, he still really enjoys getting scratched in all those hard to reach places. Since Bruce is going to be with me forever, I really want him to enjoy our time interacting. One of the reasons I haven't put a halter on him yet is because I want him to come over and interact with me on his terms. Sometimes that does mean I push him away a little bit when he's getting a little bit too overbearing. It's really hard to get angry at this little guy, but today he took a chomp out of me in a place where nobody wants to get bitten. I think he could tell that he had done something really naughty because he went back to being his normal sweet self. I did have to restrain myself from bopping him in the nose because he took me by surprise. He really just wanted to play, so I can't be too hard on him. I do want him to be a little bit better at being restrained, so I worked on that for a little bit at the end of our session today. I'm so excited to watch this guy grow up with you. If you are not already subscribed, make sure you do that so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.
That's a good boy. Okay, now we move the front end around. There's things. Good boy. Don't get too squirmy. Okay, you're free. All right.